Hey, thank you so much for watching, listening, and I'm so happy to be with you. Of course, I want to invite you to subscribe because clearly we have amazing stuff on this channel here, and I'm just encourage you that God has good things for you in the upcoming year in 2022. And as we finish out this year, I was asking God, what do you want to say? What do you want to share today? And in the last series, we did these episodes on finding Jesus. And I encourage you to go back and watch some of those, share them with your friends because they're super fun and kind of insightful and make you think about a couple things on ways to experience and find Jesus. But as we kind of start to look into the new year, I want to bring these two verses to your attention. And they are Psalms 37, verses 3 and 4. And in verse 3, it says, "Trust in the Lord and do good. Dwell in the land and feed on his faithfulness." Cultivate faithfulness. I'm bringing that to your attention because as I think about feeding on the faithfulness of God, it makes me consider, how has God been faithful to me? And I bring that to your attention because I want you to consider, over the course of this past year, 2021, how has God been faithful to you? In what ways has God helped you, encouraged you, given you resources, be that strength? In what ways has God illuminated your path? In what ways has God brought strength to you, relationships? In what ways has God healed you? Maybe physical healing, stuff from past traumas, wounds. In what ways? Look for the faithfulness of God in the past year and start to identify. And we're coming into, New Year's Day. But I think before we start thinking about, all of the New Year's stuff, resolutions and, new calendar, new chapter, new season, all that stuff, let's take a pause and consider and look for God's fingerprints over the course of this past year. Because God has been abundantly faithful. God has helped us. God has redeemed us. God has brought us and helped us grow in incremental steps. And you can say, well, he didn't do, or God, Trinity, didn't do, da 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 da. But we're going to pause on that because we're going to choose to feed on the faithfulness of God. And feeding can mean meditating, reflecting, thinking. And in order to do that, we have to identify. So maybe in the course of the next day or two, maybe you would consider get out a sheet of paper or open up a little note in your phone and write in there God's faithfulness and begin to think back over the course of this year. In January, what happened? February, March, and you're going to see some things. You're going to remember, ooh, that was bad, but this was good. This was helpful. Oh my goodness, I didn't see that. That was amazing. And I believe that as you do that, feeding on the faithfulness, finding and accentuating and focusing on the faithfulness of God. How has God's presence participated in your life over this last year? I think you'll find some amazing experiences, and it will cultivate trust, because that's the very first part of this verse. Trust in the Lord. It will cultivate trust that God is good. God has things for you in the future, in the upcoming year, because of God's faithfulness. And then in verse 4, and we always read this verse, and we used to say it a whole lot because we would pray it to get what we wanted. It says in Psalms 37, verse 4, "Delight yourself in the Lord, and he will give you the desires of your heart." I would put these two verses together. Feed on the faithfulness of God. As you look back and see God's fingerprints, what God has done, take an inventory of 2021, all that, then it gives you confidence, security, that God is present, God is moving, God is participating in my life. And that helps me to celebrate God, to delight myself in the Lord, to say, whew, you've got good things. You've got a hope and a future for me. We read about that in Jeremiah 29:11. Then next year, if God has been faithful to me this year, God will not change and suddenly pull out the rug and I'll be in a free fall for next year. No, God has been and will be faithful because that's who God is. God is faithful. But I also think this as well. Delight yourself in the Lord. And it says this, he will give you the desires of your heart. I would propose to you that rather than praying for what you want, sometimes what we want. Like, I remember when I was a teenager, I wanted an Audi. Oh my goodness. I wanted this souped up, super fast, turbocharged 4,000 Audi. That's what I wanted. So I would pray this verse and justify praying for that. But I felt as I've matured and as God has helped me, I felt God say to me, you know what, Sarah? I want to give you the desires. I want to put desires in you that will complement my plans and purposes for you. Now I was like, that's a different way to think about that. What do I want? And am I willing to let God shape, mold, and cultivate desires that would complement God's will in my life? And then think about that. If I have this desire, is this a God-given desire? Is this complement the design in me? Or is this my flesh human desire? Sometimes they're both, right? It can be together, but sometimes there's a difference. But I would encourage you that as we come into this new year, let's ask God, put desires in my heart, wants, the things that I want, shape them so that they reflect your plans and purposes, and help me to have the desires that would agree with where you're leading me in life. So as we think about the past and inventory, then let's also ask God to put fresh desires, shape our desires, so that we walk in concert, in cadence, in step with God over the course of 2022. So thank you for watching, subscribing, listening, all that stuff. Of course, you want to hit the notification bell right there. That'll give you posted content and stuff. And when you think about this question, I want you to answer for me. List one of the ways that God has been faithful to you in this past year, in 2021. In what way, well, just one, has God been faithful to you? Think about that. Answer that in the comments. That would be fantastic. And this is going to be a fantastic end of the year joke. Maybe the best. The best, probably not. Maybe. Anyways, so what does the robber say to the banker? He puts his gun up and says, "Give me all your dough." Robber. No, to the baker, not the banker, the baker. Oh my gosh. I know, I messed it up, but next year I won't be messing up any jokes. It's going to be fantastic. Thanks again.